I'm Dr. Gene Preuss. I'm your history instructor for History 1312 Texas History. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is log on to Blackboard and download your syllabus for this course. And what I'm going to do is kind of go over the course with you, go over some of the items in the syllabus you need to be aware of, but I ask that you review the syllabus at your leisure thoroughly. Thank you. So one of the first things you want to do is, whenever you log in, is select the course, click on it, and that'll bring you to the course page. So once you're in, let's go to the course info and syllabus link and select which course you're in. Are you in the Monday, Wednesday course, or are you in the Thursday, Tuesday course, Tuesday, Thursday course? So let's go ahead and click on the Monday, Wednesday course. Here's your syllabus. Here's what it looks like. See your CRN number here. Make sure that's the same thing you're enrolled in. Make sure you're enrolled in the right course. Then you'll notice that we have a course description. I'm going to ask you to look over this introductory material here, talking about what history is about and why Texas history, and you'll also see the course learning outcomes. Look over this, it kind of goes together. Then you'll see the course requirements, what books you're going to need, how the assignments are counted toward your final grade, how the letter grades will be determined at the end of the semester. Also note that there is a link for helps and services that are available from the book publisher, quizzes and whatnot that you can take to test your reading. And then your assignments as they are outlined here, how much each contributes. Now, please note that I dropped some of your grades, the two lowest class participation grades and the lowest quiz and the lowest exam grade. So that is going to help you. You can, if you make a mistake, if you don't study very well, if it just doesn't work out the way you wanted it to on one of your quizzes or one of your exams, don't fret, because you can do better next time. I also provided some information about your attendance, makeup assignments, which I really don't give, and comportment. There might be some chance for some extra credit, and we'll talk about that later on. Here is the course calendar, and I'll let you look over that. Every week we'll have a quiz, and then policies for the class, and just some other information about how we study history. So that's one thing that I ask for you to read this carefully, get to know it, and then if you have questions, we can discuss those in class. To get you introduced to the course, I prepared a little presentation for you, and I hope that this will explain some of the questions that you might have. One of the first things I want you to think about after you read that introductory material on the syllabus is, what is history? And that seems like, well, it's a list of facts. It's, all these things that happened that were important. But I want to give you some idea of what other people have said about history, kind of as a discussion starting point. One person said, this was a novelist in the 1950s, "The past is a foreign country. They do things differently there." I think that's a great quote. We tend to think about history as, well, it's just these things that happen to people. But we have to realize that for them it was a different world than the world we live in today. Even 2 or 3 days ago, things were different than they are today, because we didn't know then what we do today. Winston Churchill, the former Prime Minister of Great Britain during World War II, said, "History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it myself." And a lot of people think that's funny, because it kind of reminds them of the old adage that history is written by the conquerors. And Churchill kind of alludes to that in this quote. Voltaire, a French philosopher living during the French Revolution in the 1790s, said, "History is a pack of lies. We play on the dead." William Shakespeare said, "What's past is prologue," that history, what happened in the past, came before today. Of course, that makes sense. But I think what he really meant by this was that we don't know where we are today until we learn from the past. If you look at what Voltaire was saying, and you combine those two together, or you compare and contrast those two statements, Voltaire was kind of saying that the people who lived in the past may not have seen things the same way we see them today. And so we can say history is what it means to us and not necessarily what it means to them. I think there's some truth in both of those, even though Voltaire's was certainly more cynical. This is from an ancient philosopher written about 2,000 years ago, a little bit more than 2,000 years ago, Cicero, sometimes we call him. And I really like this quote because I think this is really true. He wrote, "History is the witness that testifies to the passing of time. It illuminates reality, vitalizes memory, provides guidance in daily life, and brings us tidings of antiquity." And I think that is really at the heart of what historians try to do. Certainly you can be cynical and say it's a pack of lies played upon the dead, but I think most historians try to interpret the past to give us insight into the past. My definition of history, personally, is that we shouldn't think about history as just being this list of facts, but it's an interpretation. It's how we see that people in the past, in specific places, did things that contributed to events in the past that affect us today and why they're important for us today. And I think if we look at history that way, you'll understand it a little bit better. So what we'll do in this course is think historically. And so if you look at these things, these 5 items, and they come from an article written by Thomas Andrew and Flannery Burke, the 5 C's of history. And this is a good, handy way of thinking about what historians do and how historians look at things. We look at change over time. How have things changed, or how have they stayed the same? We look at the context. What was the world in which those events and those people lived in? What was going on around them? Because that helped them make the decisions on what they were going to do. Causality. One thing led to another, and what event happened as a result of those actions that people took. That's the causality. They did something, and then what were the events that happened afterwards? Contingency, or kind of what happened before. So it's we look at the past as kind of an interconnected web of people and events, and sometimes what happens in one place, or what somebody does in one place, will affect what people do in another place. And we have to look at that, these contingency effects. It's kind of like the idea of unintended consequences. As like I go to hammer the nail, but I accidentally hit my thumb. Well, I'm going to say something about that. And it's just these contingencies. I didn't intend for that to happen, but it happened. Somebody may close the door really loud in the next room, and it affects us here because we're startled by that noise. Those are contingent actions. Complexity. We tend to look at history kind of as good guys versus bad guys, people doing right, people doing wrong, but it's actually much more complex. Look, nobody thinks they do anything that's going to cause harm, but in fact they do. Some people do, of course, but if we look at most people and we think that they act rationally, sometimes we mistake ourselves. Most people do act rationally, but sometimes people just do things to cause confusion, or they don't know why they do something, or they do something that they think is rational, but everybody else thinks is crazy. So we have to look at the complex past. And of course the learning outcomes fit into this. And look over these, they're in your syllabus. These are some of the things that we're going to be doing in this course. How your grade is broken down by assignment. Class participation, simply being here, counts for 1/3 of your grade because we're going to be doing things in class that you're going to be graded on. So don't say, well, I'll just show up once or twice, I'll take some quizzes and I'll be done. No, you need to come regularly. Class participation, you're responsible not only for yourself, but by signing up for this class, I have a responsibility to you. You have a responsibility to me. You also have a responsibility to your classmates. So come to class, be prepared to participate when you're here. You're going to take weekly online quizzes over the chapters. These are short multiple choice quizzes. They're worth 1/3 of your grade as well. The class participation, 30% of your grade. You'll be taking several exams, and I said I'm going to drop some of them. I'm going to drop some of your weekly quizzes as well, but I'm going to drop one of your exams. But that will make up a 30% of your grade. And then finally, Web Society activities. And Web Society, the Walter Prescott Webb Historical Society, is a group of students. We have a chapter here on campus, and it's named after one of our retired professors, Garner Christian, the Garner Christian chapter. What we do is we do tours, we have meetings, we participate with other web societies across the state. So I'm going to have some events that you can do to earn some extra points. I'm going to ask that you also join the society. There's no charge, but it'll keep you up to date on what we're doing. Your two texts that you'll be using are The History of Texas and Sleuthing the Alamo. Both are in your bookstore. I've checked, so they're both available. You can go down and get them, and you need to get your textbooks whether you buy them online, whether you buy them from the bookstore, or wherever you buy them. You need to get them as soon as possible because we're going to be starting the class and taking quizzes next week. One of the things we're also going to do, and this is going to be predominantly in class and with your supplemental instructor, is we're going to look at how do we analyze primary sources. Primary sources are the grist which feeds the interpretation of history. We have to look at what people in the periods we're studying were producing. Sometimes they're photos, sometimes they're maps or drawings or other types of documents, sometimes they're journals, memoirs, books. In more recent times we can look at films and videos, but of the period. And that's how historians determine what people were doing in the past, as we look at these primary sources. One of the other things we're going to learn how to do is how to cite them and how historians cite them, so that if you want to look at somebody's primary source that they used to write the history, you can go back and find it. Right now, this primary source that I have here kind of looks confusing, but it's really very simple, and once you learn how we cite, it'll be increasingly simple. The other thing we're going to be doing, and this is for your daily grade, is you're going to be taking some quizzes and polls in class, and you can do this one of two ways. You can use the iClicker. Now, some of you, especially the chemistry courses, if you've had a chemistry course, perhaps you bought an iClicker. You can also use Reef Polling. This is available on your computer, a laptop. It's available on a pad, a tablet, or on a smartphone. These apps are free to download. You pay by the semester. Overall, it's cheaper to do this than to use the iClicker, but they both work on the same principle, and we'll practice that. But either get the app and you can download that immediately, or get the iClicker and you can purchase that at the bookstore, or you can order it. You can even buy it used, but remember there is a setup fee for to get a new one. But in either case, you're going to need to register. There's information on Blackboard on how to do that, or you can go to IT on the 7th floor or on their webpage here at the University of Houston downtown and get more information about that. So how do we get off to a good start? First of all, you need to get your materials, come to class ready to go. Come to class ready to participate, and you need to be disciplined about all this. Come to class, follow the schedule, make sure you know what's happening. Get to know your classmates in case you have to miss a class or in case you miss something. There's no better way of learning than sharing with others. And so get to know somebody. If you forget to take notes, if you miss something on your notes, get to know a classmate so you can ask them about it. And make sure you take notes regularly and review them. This is another thing your SI can do. How do you take notes? Well, I just write things down. Well, there's working hard and there's working smart. You can work very hard and not work very smart. So there is a method of taking notes, Cornell method, which is very good. I use it myself when I'm in meetings and whatnot, and so it's a systematic way of taking notes that works very well. When you have questions about the course, make sure you ask either your supplemental instructor or your professor. We are here to help you succeed in class. And don't be a stranger, neither to your class, to your classmates, or to your supplemental instructor, or to me. We need to know who you are, to know that you're really investing in this class. and that will help you in the long run. So what you need to do, go to Blackboard, download, review the syllabus, complete the student information survey on Blackboard, and you can find that in your course content or in the assignments link. Download the Reef app, register it, or register your iClicker with Reef so that you can get your grades in class for the classwork that we do. And make sure you get your books and begin reading as soon as possible. Your supplemental instructor is Mr. Francisco Delgado. He just graduated with a bachelor's degree in history, and so congratulations to him. He's located in 405 South in the Learning Connection, and he can provide you with his office hours. I think he's available 2 to 3 Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's a good time to go see him. He can help you. He'll have some activities for you to do to help you go over the material and learn. And he is an expert. He's done it. He's been there. He just graduated and he's getting ready for graduate school, so he's a great resource. Please utilize him. Thank you very much, and we enjoy having you in class.